All right, today we are hacking into one of the most fundamental processes on the entire planet, photosynthesis. Now, this isn't just about how plants make their food. Oh no, it's a much bigger story. It's about an ancient pact, a tiny organism that became a power source, and a pretty serious design flaw that we are now trying to fix. So, let's just jump right in with a wild idea that happens to be completely true. And it is the key to understanding everything else we're going to talk about. See, those little green engines inside every single plant cell, they weren't original parts. They're actually the descendants of ancient bacteria that basically moved in and never left. And that brings us to our first section, where we're going to uncover that incredible partnership. We're talking about a cellular deal that was struck billions of years ago, a deal that literally changed the face of the Earth. Okay, so check this out. About 2 billion years ago, a simple host cell swallowed a tiny, free-living bacterium that knew how to photosynthesize. But, and this is the crazy part, instead of being digested, it stuck around. It became a permanent resident, a partner. This process, where one organism lives inside another and they both benefit, has a name: endosymbiosis. You can almost think of the chloroplast as a domesticated bacterium. It was an ancient handshake, right? The host cell provided a safe place to live, and in return, the bacterium paid rent with a constant supply of sugar that it made from sunlight. Every single green thing you see today, every tree, every blade of grass, is a direct result of that one deal. So we know where this little factory came from. Now let's take a look under the hood. We're going to take a tour inside this microscopic, solar-powered machine to see exactly how it's built. You know, the best way to picture a chloroplast is to think of it as a tiny, self-contained factory. It is not just some bag of green goo. It is a highly organized facility with specialized departments, all working together to turn sunlight into sugar. Let's take a look at the blueprint. And the design is just brilliant. The factory has these strong outer walls, a double membrane actually, that control all the imports and exports. Then you've got the solar panels. These are stacks of little discs called thylakoids, and their only job is to capture sunlight. And finally, you have the main factory floor, the stroma, which is this fluid-filled space where the final product, sugar, gets assembled. Every part has a very precise role. So how does this whole factory actually run? Well, it operates on a really clever two-step production line. It splits the whole process into two separate but totally connected stages. And this breaks it down perfectly. The whole thing kicks off with the light-dependent stage, which happens right on the solar panels, the thylakoids. This is where water and sunlight are used to charge up the factory's mobile batteries. Then you move to the light-independent stage, out on the factory floor, the stroma, where all that battery power is used to turn carbon dioxide into sugar.
Let's walk through that one more time. Step 1. You use sunlight to literally rip water molecules apart. This creates oxygen as a waste product, but more importantly, it charges up two little energy-carrying molecules, ATP and NADPH. Just think of them as the factory's rechargeable batteries. Then, in step 2, these fully charged batteries are moved over to the assembly line to power the construction of sugar using carbon dioxide from the air.
But this ancient machine, it has a design flaw. It's a glitch, really, that affects the huge majority of plants on Earth, including a lot of the crops we depend on for food. And the problem lies with this one guy, an enzyme called rubisco. Now, this is the most abundant protein on the entire planet, and its whole job is to grab carbon dioxide out of the air to kick off the sugar-building process. But it has a crucial flaw, one that evolved billions of years ago when Earth's atmosphere was really different, way more CO2, way less oxygen. Back then, being a little sloppy wasn't such a big deal. And here is the central conflict. Rubisco is supposed to grab carbon dioxide. That's its job. But sometimes, especially when it gets hot and dry, it gets confused and it grabs an oxygen molecule by mistake. And this case of mistaken identity, well, it causes huge problems for the plants. So when rubisco makes this error, it kicks off this toxic, incredibly wasteful process called photorespiration. The factory basically starts running in reverse. It burns energy, it spits out precious carbon, and it makes absolutely zero sugar. It is a massive, self-sabotaging drain on the plant's resources. And we are not talking about a minor issue here. About 95% of all plants on Earth, and that includes major food crops like wheat and rice, they use what's called the C3 pathway. That's the standard original operating system, the one with the flawed rubisco.
Their ability to grow is literally held back by this ancient inefficiency. So, this fundamental flaw brings us to our final section, how scientists are now trying to give this ancient factory a modern upgrade. They're essentially hacking photosynthesis to make it better. And the workarounds that are being developed are just ingenious. One idea is to make the factory better at recycling, recapturing the CO2 that gets wasted. But an even more direct solution is to engineer a brand new biological bypass, inserting new genes that create a shortcut to deal with the toxic byproducts of photorespiration before they can cause any damage. And this isn't just a theory. In actual field trials with tobacco plants, creating one of these synthetic bypasses for photorespiration resulted in a staggering 24% increase in biomass. That is a huge, huge leap in productivity. And really, that's the final takeaway. By understanding this 2 billion-year-old biological deal and figuring out how to re-engineer its flaws, we might be able to dramatically increase crop yields. It just leaves you with this tantalizing question. Are we on the verge of creating supercrops that could help solve some of the biggest challenges of the 21st century?